Welcome to Travel Chicks, where we talk travel, transformation, and inspiration. My name's Melissa. I'm the founder of Travel Chicks, and I want to let you know that it may be me, it may be one of our other travel chicks, but welcome on board this adventure. Please, if you love what you hear, like it. Leave a review and share this with your friends. We need to inspire more people to create their own travel story. Hello and welcome to another episode of Travel Chicks podcast, where we talk travel, transformation, and inspiration. Today's guest is wonderful. I am so excited to hear what she has to say. Listen here. Welcome, Susan. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so here you guys go. Listen to this. Susan Catto is the head of publishing and production Canada at Travelzoo, the global club for travel enthusiasts. A renowned travel expert and writer, Susan brings a robust and informed perspective on global travel trends developed during her years as a freelance travel writer for the New York Times and contributor to The Economist's Gulliver business travel blog. Driven by data drawn from Travelzoo's 30 million members and a passion for creating exceptional travel, entertainment, and lifestyle deals, Susan helps bring insider knowledge to the general public. Wow. That is incredible. I got to ask, how many years have you been in the travel industry?
Gosh, well, I mean, probably a couple of decades at this point, because I started off quite early. I was working as a researcher for the New York Times and then started writing travel for them. And that led to just a lot more travel writing. So really from the start of my career.
Amazing. You know, before we dive into something that you're really a true expert on, navigating review sites, I would love to hear, we're at the end of November, going into December. What are the travel trends that you are seeing pick up for, obviously, 2026?
Well, it's interesting because, I know it's been a year of economic uncertainty for a lot of people, but we're still seeing a real passion for doing the so-called bucket list trip or the big trips. When we ask next year, easily over, nearly half the people that we've surveyed say they intend to take at least one of those trips next year, with some people saying they have 2 or 3 kind of trips of a lifetime on their schedule. And I feel like that's something that's, left over maybe from pandemic days where people don't want to put it off. Why would you put it off? Do it now while you can, while it's a good time to go, while it's safe. And so that's definitely a trend. Personalization, the increasing interest in sort of small ship cruising is something we're seeing, where you're instead of being part of a massive cruise ship, you're on a small ship getting into smaller ports with more personalized service. That's very appealing too. And I think, the passion for Canada has never been higher within Canada. People are really looking to travel within Canada as a destination. So exploring, within their own borders is a thing. And I think you're seeing that is probably really a global trend when I look at what our counterparts in the US or the UK or Germany, Spain, places where Travelzoo operates. We see that kind of everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, it's actually not too interesting. This bucket list travel has really been a thing, I think, since everyone was released out of their house.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And, I've tried to do those trips myself, and you really do need to do them while you can, I think.
Precisely.
There's no reason to put things off.
I think so many people are finding themselves, they've saved their entire retirement. They've gotten to the age, and now the money is sitting in the bank and they're sitting in a hospital room. And so
yes,
we cannot stress it enough. It is so time to travel, and don't wait, because at the end of the day, we're not taking any of this money with us.
No, and I mean, I'm Gen X. I certainly saw with my own parents who were passionate travelers. They met on an airplane. That they hit a stage of life when they were still healthy, but they were really no longer felt up to traveling. And you know what? It happened earlier than I expected. And I would try to get them to go on trips with me or try to find things that suited them, but they were just kind of done. So I always have that in the back of my mind that it may, the years when I feel confident, comfortable doing almost anything, I hope I'm still traveling, when I'm 85, but I want to be a little realistic about what's in store. So, and do it while I'm healthy and strong. And the same with people who are much younger and maybe have children at home. My kids have gone off to university, and it's much, much harder to travel with them now because of their schedules. And maybe they need to have a job in the summer, or maybe they have friends that they want to spend, holiday times with. So I'm really grateful that when they were younger, we took family trips. When they were in high school, I took individual trips with each of them that are really some of our favorite memories. And I'm really glad, again, that I didn't put that off. Sometimes it's a financial strain and it's, it's difficult to do, but you really never regret spending your money on travel. I mean, you could have a closet full of fantastic clothes that don't mean anything to you 2 years from now, or you could have a trip, with the people that mean the most to you now.
And I really like that inspiration. I mean, so many people that listen to this podcast are people, well, I mean, a lot of them are solo travelers, but a lot are also families with kids. And even if that's your situation, it's not about putting it off, because it is those memories that will last beyond your years, and pass on to the future generations. So I'm curious, with your experience, especially in navigating the review sites, I would love to know, and for the listeners, what can they look for when they're actually navigating these review sites? Because even for myself, I have stayed several times at specific properties, and when I look at the reviews, I'm like, did this person even stay at the same place? Like, how do you decipher between all of that?
Yeah, there's, there is so much going on. Companies companies are removing fake reviews, and Amazon, Google, they're removing like millions of fake reviews all the time. But there's so many that do slip through the cracks. And so some of the ways you can make sure a review is relevant is simply just by comparing across many different sites. So, there are sites like Trustpilot, there are sites like Google, there's obviously TripAdvisor. And you want to look for consistency, but not anything identical, because as soon as you start seeing the same phrases, the same reviews popping up everywhere, then you know that it's been, made by a bot of some kind, or else it's otherwise fake. Another thing, at Travelzoo, before we work with a partner, we look at like all the different review sites, and we compile a score, which we kind of use as a trust score, and we make sure that it is consistent across a lot of different sites, so that we know that they are legit. And we actually look at and read the reviews of any place we're recommending. And I think that you do have to be a busy, nosy consumer. Another thing you can do is remember that a 5-star review and a 1-star review, those are written in states of either euphoria or passionate anger. And I'm not saying there's no truth to them. Sometimes those 1-star reviews can be very informative, but at the same time, if you really want to find out more about a place, I think you're best off looking at the 3-star reviews. You're going to find out then, they're less likely to be fake, obviously. And you're going to really get a more honest, balanced perspective of the property. And, I'd also ask yourself, how easy is it to review? At Travelzoo, the hotels that we feature, the only people reviewing those on Travelzoo's site are people that have purchased and stayed at, because those are the only people that get the email that triggers the opportunity to review and to score it. So if you see a percentage, say something has got a 95% approval rating on Travelzoo, those are honestly people that have stayed there, because there's no other way to get in there. If you don't stay, you don't get the opportunity to review. So, you can trust the reviews you see at Travelzoo because of that. But, obviously anyone can walk into some of the other sites and put something in there.
Well, especially Google. I mean, it seems like Google is the go-to,
Yes.
for everybody these days. And yeah, it's very interesting. So I never even considered that, Google and Trustpilot and a lot of these companies, like you said, are going through and removing a lot of fake reviews, which obviously is good.
Yes.
And so my next question is, for people considering travel, what are some tips for getting the most out of their pre-travel research? And then I think this kind of leads into the whole idea of AI, right? It could be two parts. So I guess answer the first, tips for getting the most out of pre-travel research. And then the second part would be, how do you rely on AI to book a trip, or should you,
Okay, well, I'll start with the first part. How do you get the most out of reviews? I'm a big fan of using the search function within a review site to drill down into things that I'm interested in. So if I'm looking at a resort, at a beach, I might Google surf or waves, just because I want to find out what's the wave life like? I love to body surf. Is this going to be suitable? Sometimes I'll do that for just like an entire destination in a large review site, so I can find out the best places to go. And I think that using that, you are more likely to just find the reviews that are not just right at the top, or you're going to find things that are much more applicable to what you are looking for. And honestly, like, the best advice would be like, no traveler is just like you. You have to take reviews with a bit of a grain of salt, because you're not trying to experience someone else's trip. You're trying to have your trip. Like when I went to Tokyo, my husband and I wasted a fair amount of time waiting in line to go to places that had like top reviews or were on best of lists, and they had lineups to match. And we eventually realized that in Tokyo, the food was so good everywhere that there almost was no such thing as a bad meal. And if you're just going to the top places, you're wasting time in line when you could be already sitting down and enjoying, your ramen or whatever it is you want to eat. So there's that. I would read for specifics. I'd read for context. That's how you can tell if you've actually been to a place. If it's just a list of people's names, like so-and-so at the bar was really great, I get that, but it's, often it's maybe they're incentivized in some way, or they're trying to help out somebody. I mean, I've stayed in hotels when you're leaving, the doorman says, "Hey, can you mention me by name in a review, because I get, a bonus, or I get recognized every time that happens." And you want to do it if you like the people, but it is not that helpful to the people that are actually reading the reviews. The other thing I'd say is, I read every refund request that we get at Travelzoo. And half of if they say that they want a refund because something was unclear, often it is clear. It was spelled out on the page, but people missed it, or they weren't reading carefully, or they got excited and they thought something was included that wasn't included, and they find out. So in a negative review where someone doesn't think they got what they were promised, I would almost take that with a grain of salt. Sometimes too. You just have to be careful. But you want to look for trends. So if multiple people are mentioning a cleanliness issue, and pay attention to that, that might be an issue. A rude front desk, on the other hand, if there's one or two complaints, that can happen, that could be meaningless. If it's again and again and again, then you might be worried. But also I would say, you want to look for things that are, again, important to you. Like, is the location far from tourist areas and you don't want to be taking taxis or jumping in cabs, that's what you want to look for. The really practical advice. Like if you hate street noise, you want to look and see, is this going to be an issue? That's usually much more relevant to your experience as a traveler than a gripe about the front desk staff,
Yeah.
Or how modern, the hallway carpet is or something like that. Like you may not care if you have a car, but you're going to care if you don't have a car. So,
and something that's just coming to my mind as you're talking about, consistency is this same thing being repeated by several different people? Well, that could be a red flag to pay attention to. And the destination that comes to my mind is many of our clients right now are like, Cuba is so cheap right now.
Yeah.
And honestly, right now, we are having a very tough time actually recommending and saying, yes, pull the trigger and we make the person fully aware. And we've traveled there and we've had clients travel there since COVID. And I don't know what your experience has been at Travelzoo, but I'm just a little bit curious. Have you had a lot of not so great reviews on Cuba?
There has been a trend away from, interest in Cuba among our members in favor of other Caribbean destinations. So I think people are kind of paying attention to, I think conditions there maybe are not what they were 10 years ago.
Well, and rolling blackouts, the staff, we've noticed that a lot of the staff has not been, call it rehired at the hotels. So then the service level drops, the food, so it's been very interesting because, a lot of people here in Western Canada are seeing Cuba is so cheap, but again, pay attention. What are the reviews saying?
If you just want to get out of a Canadian winter, something that everybody can understand, maybe you aren't going to mind, and it is worth it for you to just grab the least expensive holiday you can find. But there's always going to be a cheaper holiday. So you really have to think, how do I want to spend my precious vacation time? And it's still an investment, even if it's a low price thing, it's still an investment by the time you've factored in, a couple of people, your luggage, your flight. You still want to do something that is not going to ruin your experience. And of course, I've been to places that are, quote unquote subpar, and it when you're there. And sometimes you can just have a sense of humor, roll with it, and it's absolutely fine because you just wanted some time, on the beach. And sometimes maybe it's your honeymoon or a special trip, and it's going to leave you with a bad taste in your mouth. So, the pickier you are, I think the more careful you have to be about what you're giving up when you go for an extremely low price vacation.
Yeah, 100%. So let's get into AI. What's your take on AI and helping consumers, use, should I use AI to actually plan my entire trip?
No, but
I agree.
Can be useful is wider, itineraries. Again, it's helpful for personalization. I have an interest in 18th century literature. So if I'm going to London, I might say, what are some sites in London that are relevant to this period of time? And then I might get a really informative list that would be hard to cobble together somewhere else. So I think AI is really good for that kind of specific thing, or even like a bare bones agenda of what you should do on a given day, or what's in the neighborhood you're going to, features like that. And what I wouldn't use it for is when you're picking the really specific things about what you're going to do, because thanks to image generation and video generation, things can be created that are not actually real. So if you see a property that looks gorgeous, and it's through, you have a suspicion that it might be AI, you're going to want to reverse image search some of these pictures to make sure this actually shows up as a legitimate hotel somewhere else, or maybe like 10 years ago, you could see the same place. It's not something that just was invented by AI? And does it really look like it's really supposed to? You can look for, AI generated text that's describing places. I do think a lot of people, I mean, they say something like a third of Canadians have been subject to some kind of a travel scam. I do think that there are people that are going to be using AI to scam travelers in new ways. So you want to be really careful with that.
Yeah. Well, that is fantastic. And I think in closing, one of the really important questions I have is, how does a consumer, choose a trusted travel agent?
Well, you can work with like a site like Travelzoo, where we are vetting every trip that we recommend. We're actually running the prices through, like we are comparing the itinerary of a trip to what it would cost if you booked it on your own, and also to what the competitors are offering for very similar itineraries. And we don't run it unless it's like the best price or the best value or the best experience. So you could work with someone like Travelzoo that's kind of doing a lot of the research for you. And then otherwise, I think word of mouth is a great way to find a good travel agent. It's, someone who has traveled with them, has had a good experience, has maybe gotten some of the, perks that can, be found for you by a good travel agent. And who's, I mean, when I think of what the perks of working with a great travel agent would be, it's less about what they're going to get me as far as like extras. It's more like, if something goes wrong, how are they going to help me out? So if you find recommendations from people who've said, when I went here and I missed my flight and I needed some help right away, and it was 11 at night and they did something for me, that's the kind of recommendation that you're going to want to get.
I couldn't agree more. And the other thing I think I would add is, at the end of the day, I mean, there's such a wide range of people traveling right now, Gen Z, Gen X, the baby boomers. Like, there's still so many active baby boomers, which is a huge chunk of the population right now. And those people are afraid of the internet. Like, they want the human connection.
Yeah.
And so whether you're a travel agent in the industry or you're a consumer looking at booking travel, I mean, at the end of the day, AI is not going to take over, I believe, travel agents' jobs, because there is a piece of connection that is no computer will ever give that person that human connection piece.
Yeah, no, I really have to agree. And that's like why I would again say something like Travelzoo. I was just at a global Travelzoo meeting with, several hundred people whose passion is travel. And we're all traveling almost constantly and experiencing the trips that we're selling and reporting back to the rest of us like, okay, I went with this company and this was what was great about it. And this was what I didn't like so much. And this was where maybe an extra charge came in. And we're all using that information to improve the offers that we're bringing to Travelzoo members. So that personal touch is just, otherwise it's really just marketing and promotion.
Transactional.
Yeah, it's transactional. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that I think AI can be a big boon and have a place in travel, and it can help companies that do offer travel maybe do things better or do things more efficiently, but it can never replace the people that are designing an itinerary that's going to be meaningful to you as a traveler. And that personal touch is just not going to go away, hopefully, anytime soon. I know I'll be looking for it, always.
Amazing. Susan, I just want to say thank you for your time today. It was a pleasure hearing what you have to say. And, well, I'm excited to see what Travelzoo puts out in the 2026 year.
Yes, it's going to be great. Well, it was lovely talking to you. Thank you so much, and happy travels. Bye.
Bye.